Aloha kakahiaka. My name is Taisei Lee. I'm here in studio with my brother Kenji Lee, and together we are spending brotherly time. Today's conversation is offered with deep humility and respect. We sit with Uncle James Kimo Hugho, original crew member of the Hokule'a, author and witness to the rebirth of Polynesian voyaging in Hawaii. The Hokule'a is much more than a canoe. She is a living ancestor, a carrier of ike, mana, and cultural memory. Uncle Kimo's life is woven into her earliest days when intuition, courage, and responsibility guided each decision across the open ocean. This is not a history lesson. It's a living story about identity, kuleana, and what it means to navigate by stars, winds, currents, ancestors, and the indigenous spirit. Welcome, Uncle Kimo, to BrotherLee Time.
Aloha ma'ako.
Yes, sir. So today we're focused on the significance of arguably the strongest physical manifestation of mana in modern Hawaii, the Hokule'a. But first, Uncle Kimo, how are you feeling today?
You know, with the two of you, it's like being with the Navigator Mau.
Wow. Oh. Why is that?
Well, you exude, both of you exude Indigenous Na'au aura. And Papa Mau was quiet. He believed that all of his friends that enabled him to find his island are the millions of stars up in the sky, the coloration of the sunrise and sunset, the different type of fish that would leave an island and go so far, the different type of aviary that would go great distances. So these are all natural signs that he depended on to find his island. So the aura that both of you exude, I observed happening to come across your show in which you had Miss Kalahiki. Mm-hmm. And what got me impressed there was that I am a senior kupuna advisor to a voyaging academy run by all local wahine.
Oh.
So we're all in the mix.
Okay. Well, when you related our aura to Uncle Mau, he is one of history's most celebrated navigators, and he came from Micronesia. Am I correct?
Yes, that's right. He came from this tiny island called Satawal. In the Hokule'a project, we were looking at a senior navigator, I think from the Santa Cruz Islands. And custom is that when senior members feel that it is their time, their life is soon to, have them no more, they get on their canoe and they sail away and they don't come back. And so this is what happened. And we got word that there was this young navigator in Micronesia, island of Satawal. And so the dialogue and conversations were taking place to have him be a part of this Hokule'a project.
Mm. He did seem, from the documentary that I watched about 5-6 times, he did seem like a man that was so rich in the understanding and the connection between human and Aina, human and the source. And you could tell by the way that he observed people that he just knew a little bit something that most people don't. Am I correct?
Exactly.
Mm.
Right. When he came to the project, he and I were given a fellowship at the East-West Center. Mm. And that meant he would be staying at the East-West Center. It was more clinical and, clean, and it was a dormitory where he'd be staying with students. Mm-hmm. But at his home, he lives in a canoe house just a few feet from the water, and he wears shorts, bare feet or slippers. So it wasn't something that he would be you doing or wearing at that. So we asked if I could bring him home to live with my parents, where he'd have the jello pepper water, fish, taro poi, and banana trees outside, mango, lychee, and all of that. More of a local setting. So we brought him home to live with us, and he stayed there throughout the preparations of the project.
What was Uncle Mau like when nobody was watching?
Well, that's interesting because when he came there, we weren't mahaoi or niele and say, hey, teach me that star so I can learn it. We didn't do that. We just let him be and to get acclimated. And when he was ready to share, if he didn't share, no problem. We wanted him to be comfortable in a Hawaii that he had heard about, the tropical settings. But he then came to what I would say is the mini New York.
Yeah.
So it was a shock for him to be living for the time that the Hokule'a project would be taking place. So there were these moments of just stillness where we watch him and just be with him to let him know that we're not anxious to push him. Although I was being told, try to pick his brains as much as possible so we can get additional information from him about how he navigates.
Yeah.
And so it was that point in time when he began sharing. And what he was saying is relative to animism and anthropomorphism, where he said that all of his friends are the stars. Okay, so he put a relationship to all of these, even the coloration of the sunrise and sunset, which means something. The darker the colors, that means there's agitation, either precipitation coming down or else on the surface of the ocean. So all of these natural things out there are his friends. And so I says, well, Papa, we might be getting a hard time because we're going to be dealing with a computer mindset. And I don't think they'll really be comfortable if I tell them that the success of this voyage will be if we all play this game of seeing everything in nature as family. And so he was kind of perplexed in my trying to describe that the science aspect of the project would not even consider that. So, I just wanted to make it clear that we're going to try our best, but in the minds of we, the indigenous crew members, it was a natural happenstance in growing up that we all had a relationship with everything in nature, and like all of you. And that he also felt the same way. So you get this combination of a family coming from Micronesia to Hawaii, and now we have this same. He used that term quite often when we'd compare what's taking place in the Hawaiian culture, and he would say same. So here you have indigenous families, although separated by many miles, coming together.
I was thinking, hearing that separated by many miles, I used to think that the ocean was a barrier between Polynesia. But after watching and researching over the past week, immersing myself in all this knowledge, what I realized is that the ocean doesn't divide us, it connects us.
Oh, exactly.
Was there a language barrier there between you and Mr. Mau?
He spoke English. But a lot of times, just silence and his movements would be a voice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so what I mean by that, they work a lot with adses.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when he began to feel comfortable, my father would bring different types of wood, like softwood, like hau or koa. And then so we'd let him work, and just in silence, he's doing his carvings, or else coconut scented rope. You get these fibers from the coconut. The husk in the beginning stage is really rough, like steel wool. You have to soak it in salt water and let it cure. And then he begins rubbing these fibers on his thigh to begin making scented rope. So in he going through this process, it was telling us a lot that in modern times now, is there such that we have to be talking all the time? You know what I mean? And his silence was just storytelling. Yes. And then when he decided to talk, it was pertinent information relative to navigation. He'll say, well, tonight we go outside, I'll show you the different stars that I use. And at that time, I never know the name of the North Star. It's Hokule'a. So this was a learning stage for all of us. But a lot of the times when he was silent and doing his work, we got the story. But when it came time for him asking questions, he was forthright. He just come out and ask the questions, but in a very soft tone, very comfortable.
What is one thing that lives with you today from your experience living with Uncle Mau?
Gosh, there's so many. I think one of them is that he said every part of a voyaging canoe, no matter where in the Pacific, is a somebody. And I said, yeah, we get it. And what he meant by that is every component of the voyaging canoe, his voyaging canoe, Tahitian, canoes from Aotearoa, all of the Pacific peoples. Many people had a part in building these vessels, so which meant they would go in the forest and cut the different types of wood and adds it down. They get the Senate, make the Senate. So they would be part of the construction of his vessel. And so he says, well, like Hokule'a, his canoe, all of the canoes in the Pacific is a somebody. And so that really stuck in my na'au. And from that, or even before that, when we started building Hokule'a, I asked myself the question, what is your kuleana? Well, my kuleana for me was to treat Hokule'a as the first child that I will ever have in my life. And as we started taking Hokule'a around, everyone who came out of Indigenous now saw Hokule'a as a family member. And I believe that by we feeling that way, that management felt that we were already contaminating the science efforts.
Okay.
So it was all Indigenous Na'au being active and we reacting to that.
Well, one of the things that I noticed at the inception of Hokule'a was that there were different energies that had different intentions at the time. You had the indigenous people that culturally wanted to see the Hokule'a come alive. You had science that wanted to understand how these ancient voyagers could navigate the oceans without these modern instruments. And then you also had the sporting aspect of it, which is can I sail this canoe this far at this amount of time and everything. So there were a couple of different aspects, and I can only imagine how to balance it, but also eventually watching it come to fruition, the beauty of it from all aspects. How did it all align?
Yeah, that's heavy. Once the project started coming together, I was before the project came together. Herb Connie had come here from Chicago, and to get established, his artwork,
Yes.
made the Renaissance.
Yes.
Right. And so the big five here, Sea Brewer, was going to be building a resort in Hilo called the Waikea Village Resort. And my wife was the head of purchasing, so she would be responsible for buying everything for the resort. Well, because Herb was now being, people were aware of his artwork, so Sea Brewer hired him to do everything relative to a resort as far as the artwork. So I went up there and met him, and he asked me, he says, how do I keep in shape? I says, well, outrigger, canoe, paddling, and racing. So all of this started, and I began modeling for him for the resort. And then consequently, once we finished that, things were coming together as far as collaboration with he and a doctor from the University of Hawaii who was interested in how were the Hawaiian Islands populated, because you had people, naysayers out there, who believed that the population of these islands were through what they call drift voyages, chance, coming from maybe South America, what have you. And Thor Heyerdahl was already trying this experiment with his, Kon-Tiki voyages. So this collaboration came together, and as I was modeling for Herb, he pulled out this drawing of this beautiful big canoe. So evidently in this collaboration with others, there was plans in the making for forming the Polynesian Voyaging Society, and the eventual effort to sail to Tahiti and back using modern, not modern day materials, but just the natural science. And so science comes into the project. Wonderful people. Everybody who started the project, wonderful. And so Herb and Dr. Finney and Tommy Holmes were the three project managers for this. We all got together. And the written reason why this project came together was in this little brochure here. This one's worth a couple $100. And I'll tell you why. It stated that the purpose of the project was to recreate an authentic voyage done by our ancestors over 800 years ago on an archaic vessel using 40,000 yards of twisted coconut sennit for rigging and lashing, and the sails would be made out of woven lohala. And that the project would begin, 1973 would be the year of the canoe, meaning the building. 1974, and would be that. 1975 would be the year of the man, meaning the crew members being picked, and the ocean trials to see how she would fare before going to Tahiti. 1976 would then be the voyage. So this was all the planning, and in this, it describes all of what I've said. But then as you go on, it says the project will be coincident with celebrating the 200th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Okay, and I'm saying, okay, let's see how this one goes. And so it says here that the project will be coincident with the bicentennial year. And what that meant was that at a particular time in our schedule, that there would be recreations of patriotic events that happened at the time of the American Revolution. In other words, there would be a recreation of Washington crossing the Delaware. Actually, he crossed the Delaware on Christmas Day. So the recreation would be the person with the same body size and what have you, and the boat and all of that. So this would be a recreation. Another recreation would be Paul Revere's ride. I mean, to the exactness, same breed of horse, probably the same relative. And then the next recreation, patriotic recreation, would be the Boston Tea Party. So that would mean that the ship that they used would be facing Mauka, the T-bales would be thrown over the starboard side. They would have all the same uniforms and everything like that. Okay. In between all of these celebrations, patriarch celebrations, Hokule'a has to fit in, and she has to leave at the time that all of this takes place on the continent, ready or not. Okay, so I read this and I say, we can do it. Yeah, okay, we'll get Hokule'a ready to go. That was a priority. But okay, give me some fireworks. I'll light them. We throw them up and we say, hey, aloha, George Washington. Okay?
Yeah.
But we got this thing to do to prove that the Polynesians, on their own, they were engineers on their own. They had their own system of STEM to be able to come up. And then Na'au was telling us, we got to do this. Everything got to be clean, proper. You don't leave when things are not ready.
Yeah.
So at no time were we notified through our MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, that this celebration to honor the American Revolution is a significant priority in the project. It'll have to be done that way. So this is how things happen. But I felt like, going back to your question, you're talking about the sport. Yeah, we felt, not that we can do it. It's can do, shall do, will do. And that was in our Na'au.
Okay.
And knowing very well that we take care of Papa Mau and Hokule'a, we'll get there. We never had any doubts in our mind. And we felt that any distraction, as our mindset is to this effort, can sort of, make things pretty hard.
Yeah.
But I had confidence in everybody in the beginning,
Well, there was so many different energies involved that I could kind of see the main goal was this voyage, and you didn't want any blockages. So to comply and almost do what you have to in order for it to happen, I can understand your mindset. And that's really a very zoomed out perspective where I can feel there'd be some resistance from a lot of the indigenous. The colonizer, we don't celebrate that.
Exactly.
But there is a greater picture that you saw, and I think that is part of the reason why you were a crew and one of the leaders. I do want to ask you, when is the last time you talked about this on camera or in general?
We, the 76 crew that took Hokule'a down, we've discussed this amongst family members. Right now, because I'm a senior, kupuna advisor to a Voyaging Academy made up of all women, they've gotten very big. And now I've been asked to give lectures and about how we started, okay? So this is 50 years, 11 months, and 11 days back then.
Okay.
Now I'm with you, okay? So your question, this is the second time up front right here, okay?
I'm honored. We are honored.
And it's because I happened to turn onto your show, and I saw Miss Kalahiki. But then when you had Kula, my Na'au just went and says, this is it. If you're going to share the Hokule'a story, 50 years, 11 months, past, it's going to be with the brothers. You.
Mahalo.
So the first time in detail was 3 days after Hokule'a arrived in Tahiti. It was turmoil. We were the bad ones. The press had us as troublemakers. I mean, big time. First one to cry, run to the press. Everybody's going to believe you. So that was a situation. Princess Kwananako, who donated money to the project, was in Tahiti to welcome Hokule'a like everybody else. And so while she was there, she was getting the press coming in, information saying that there was a mutiny on board Hokule'a, and the Hawaiian crew members were responsible for that. And everything was one-sided. Nothing could be corroborated. And the French government also picked up this all of this rubbish. And so we were considered troublemakers. And so she hearing this and arriving there just didn't feel comfortable. That sounded all one-sided. Mm-hmm. So the only person I had there was Danny Kalekini, because he lived there with his wife Jackie. And so he was letting me know as to what the press was saying, and that I was picked out as the lead troublemaker of the first crew. And I didn't sail down, okay? And so he's keeping me abreast of what's going on, and he says, you're going to need lawyers. Mm-hmm. He says, but I think there's one last avenue I can get you help. So he made a phone call to Princess Kornanakor, and she was appreciative of he calling because she wanted to know what is going on with her Hawaiian family. Mm-hmm. And one of the crew members was her best friend, Buffalo Ke'olana.
Yeah.
Okay? When she was going to college at Notre Dame, she was training to go into the Olympics as a swimmer. I mean, she's terrific. When she come home to Oahu, she'd head straight to Makaha to be with her best friend, Buffalo. Mm-hmm. And they'd be surfing. So when Danny Kalekini had contacted Princess, he said that with him was the spokesperson for the Hawaiian crew members. That was myself. Mm-hmm. So she says, okay, send him down. Well, getting back to your question, she wanted me to tell her the whole untold story, almost day to day of the project, everything. Mm-hmm. She chartered a yacht to follow Hokule'a throughout the Tahitian islands, and she had me on board that yacht. And it was me telling her detail. And she was aware that I had documented this project because of the significance, and I had been doing documentation when I was with the rescue squad, meaning camera, tape recordings, logbooks, and all of that. Mm-hmm. So she was aware that I had documentation of photographing the whole project, mm-hmm. and tape recording everybody, like all of the kupuna, Iolani Luahini, everybody. And so she saw this as valuable, mm-hmm. and from that point on, I began being her private first responder, being with her for 30 years. So that was the first time I shared the details. Mm-hmm. This is the second, but I don't think we have enough time to go into really the whole Hokule'a story, because it even involves, after I was through with the project, it even sort of moves into what happened to Eddie.
Which was a couple of years, 1978, right?
Right.
Yeah. Which I do want to touch on as well, but, maybe you could summarize some things, because I know, in the selection for the first crew that left in 1976 from Hawaii to Tahiti, there are a lot of big personalities on that vessel, on that voyage. Can you explain a little bit about the dynamics and some of the mental strains being on a vessel for a little over a month, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Going 2,600 miles mm-hmm. on the open ocean, probably afraid for your life at some points. I know not all of these crew members were seasoned navigators or seasoned wayfarers. Some of them were, the first responders, right? Mm-hmm. Scientists, people that, hey, this is a long time for anyone to be on the open ocean mm-hmm. and without any modern instruments. Mm-hmm. And actually relying on the expertise of someone that is soft-spoken in mm-hmm. Uncle Mau, mm-hmm. right? And then also with the leadership of of you, the trust that has to be had on that type of a voyage is amazing. So I kind of want to talk about some of the personalities involved, and then maybe some memorable instances, like sourcing food. What happens when you guys got like catch on fresh fish? I saw you had a pig on board. I saw you had a dog on board. I know you dried bananas before you went on, but I want to hear about some of that experience.
Okay, we can talk about crew selection. Herb Connie designed Hokule'a, and he would be the first captain of Hokule'a. Then he told me he wanted me to be his bosun. Now, if you look at bosun, it's a critical position as far as maritime industry goes. I mean, you're responsible for the safety, everything about the vessel and all personnel on board. So I was doing this, a similar type of kuleana with the rescue squad. So when he said I have to be the bosun, I understood that we're going to have to make this voyage safe for everybody. So right away when he said that, in my mind, I had already picked the crew out. I would take 5 from Rescue 2, which was where I was stationed at Waikamila and Nimitz, and I'd take 5 from Rescue 1 by the old Holiday Mart. And because we had the personnel perfect for this voyage, we had Captain Akiona on Rescue 1. We had 2 other rescue men, Eben Kala'au and Polo Simeono. Now, they were licensed captains, for maritime. They were also the captains for Duke Hanamoku's boat. Okay? So you see what I'm getting at? And then I had other good rescue men. And the reason why, and the criteria that I was looking for was not only for what they call able-bodied seamen in the maritime world, is because all of these personnel on rescue had this can-do, will-do, shall-do aura. But we had the compatibility to work together under trying conditions, and we had the worst. I mean, you don't want to see some of the stuff that we had to see. It's like your good friend, the rescue swimmer, okay?
Yep.
What they had to go through, but we're on a smaller scale. They're the best. So my mind was made up that this is the crew that's going to go down, but Mayor Fossey let me get off from the fire department, and I couldn't take all of these guys because they were necessary people for safety for Oahu.
Yes.
Okay. So I figured, well, okay, the criteria, able-bodied sea person. But as we went out, we started training at Kualoa for about 2 months. Then we took her for the first time that a voyaging canoe in over 800 years went to the outside islands, although she's a replica. We get to Lahaina and the people coming on board, many people coming on board. But a couple of them exuded this, just the presence, his can-do, will-do, shall-do aura. And I knew already that, hey, this guy, he can be a perfect one for my rescue squad. You know what I mean? So I'm getting this, but there's more to it than that. But I think what really began bringing the spiritual aspect that has been maybe tucked away, not so much being in this great volume now. Willie K, the musician, his daddy, Manu Kahaiali'i, he greeted Hokule'a there with his family. I think that time Willie was a keiki. Manu exuded this presence of old Hawaii. And in my book, I tell about how he and his family start singing to Hokule'a as if she's a family member. And he brings a family member to be part of Hokule'a, and which I can tell you about later on. So as we start going to the different islands, these different individuals, for one thing, everybody who came out to sail Hokule'a, if you gave them enough time to sail, everybody would qualify, men and women. But we were on a time frame. So as we continued sailing in Lahaina, the sailing was terrific. Nothing like Kualoa was nice and gentle where you can learn. So the wave action out there was fantastic. I mean, we're moving. So we put Hokule'a to the paces, and she's smoking. And now Buffalo and I getting a chance to really understand. Herb Connie said that this is the spaceship of our ancestors, and we will be the first test pilots. So that's what we were doing, getting her ready to take her to Tahiti, even if we don't go for some reason or another, but to find out where her weak spots are. And steering was the biggest problem. Okay, so only Buffalo and I steered. So on comes more crew members, and a couple of them, I had this same feeling: can do, will do, shall do. Okay, we go to the Big Island, the same thing. That individual comes up. Maina'au, even before watching them on several runs for sailing, Maina'au was telling me that person's going to go to Tahiti. Wow. They're going to go. So a week ago, we were having services for, to me, the top navigator and Mau's Shorty. Okay, terrific. So we go up to Moku'oke'awe. Hokule'a is at Hale'oke'awe. This is the home of Ke'oua.
Okay.
Now, you look at the chief of war now, and I appreciate Jason coming out and doing it visually, because throughout the years we're reading it. Now you see all of the islands with good leaders. Hokule'a is at Honanau, city of refuge. Hale'oke'awe, the He'au.
Yep.
Ke'oua.
Yeah.
For 1 month, and I lived there. I am with family of Ke'oua. So one of the crew members who got picked comes to the canoe. I don't know his name, and I look at him, and he's just radiating this can do, will do, shall do.
Yeah.
My now always tell me he's going. Okay, his name is Billy Richards. Okay. I didn't know his name. He was still on the ground. He never came on to Hokule'a.
Yeah.
So Ke'oua, okay, while we were there, the setting is nice. The spirit of nice is existing. What happens? We get magical, mystical moments of truth and nice. Because Kupuna came out. Now you have the layer of ownership of Hokule'a. You have we, the workers. Okay. Then you have this top layer of Kupuna. Okay. Iulani Luahini is the leader, spokesperson of all the Kupuna. Okay. So you have our last night there, Mauna Loa erupts. You have 83-year-old Tutu Clara, who looks like Tutu Pele in the reports that people pick up this lady on the side of the road wearing a white muumuu, and she disappears. Tutu Clara. And I sent you JPEGs of her and that. Tutu Clara speaking to somebody in the ocean. I say, Tutu, come more close. Because I would like you fall inside. She says, Ole. I feed my sister. And I went, what? She says, my sister died in a terrible automobile accident, and she came back as Ma'ano. She says, boy, if anybody on Hokule'a gets hurt in the ocean, my sister will come under and get you. We had that happen. I got hurt. This black object, as I'm ready to sort of go semi-unconscious, and it's all written in a book, this black object just crosses in front of the aquamarine blue that the ocean is showing. It comes out of the water, and Herb Connie sees it. At the back of Hokule'a, it comes out of the water, spins around, and drops. Okay. Well, I mean, what is that? Come on. You know what I mean? Volcano. Then we had another crew member from the Big Island. He tells me, he says, I got to tell you something. He says, Hokule'a, the Akea hull, which is the male hull, will be completely submerged. Okay? The conditions at sea will be perfect. You will be many miles away from a well-known harbor. And I says, well, Lonnie, tell me, is there cranes? Are there trees? Then I can tell the harbor. He says, no, it's many miles away. He says, Hokule'a will be saved by a steel-hulled foreign vessel. Okay? 3 months later, exactly what happened. Exactly. So we had a seer, okay, like him, yeah? We had many of these people who had this talent of Ike Papalua. Now, Ike Papalua, you go to Nana Ike Kumu, Volume 2, Chapter 7. Merikavena Pukui describes this Ike Papalua. In Western minds, it's ESP, extrasensory perception. So I felt that our ancestors came up here with that, in addition to animism and anthropomorphism. Okay, so now you're talking about the crew, so we get the crew ready. Yeah? And then we come together, and I think there was concern that this togetherness of all Hawaiians taking place and coming together, that there was what I call, let me see what I have here, heuristic paranoia taking place, that this Hawaiianness was being. So we began seeing antics taking place against us. And this continued. But when you ask about on the voyage, I wasn't on. I was going to be taken off. But before I was given the formal word, I exited out. Okay. So your question about what was happening going down, the foods were prepared and preserved. And at my time, I was waiting for a proper time to have everything organized. But once they were getting ready for this rush to honor the American Revolution, everything was thrown helter-skelter. The food spoiled. All of the work done by many people. So it was just chaotic. It was a mad rush to get Hokule'a out so that she can at least sail. At the time, Washington is crossing the Delaware. So we weren't ready for 2 weeks. I needed all of this preparation. So fishing, they had to fish down there. There was a lot of distractions on board. But their main concern was to take care of Papa Mau. There was some last-minute foods brought in. Of course, you had a lot of banana and a lot of coconuts, but they caught a lot of fish. Everybody tried their best to be family. Okay. Kealakahiki is the channel between Kaho'olawe and the Big Island, where all the voyages took place. So we were told that once we leave for Tahiti, we're going to go that route. Well, at that time, Kaho'olawe was in the news, and I think the paranoia, the heuristic paranoia, was such that the belief was that I would sort of make Hokule'a go to Tahiti. To Kaho'olawe before we went to Tahiti. Okay, so I think that paranoia made the powers that be take Hokule'a around Maui, the backside, and waste 5 days to stay away from Kaho'olawe. Okay, it was unnecessary paranoia because we would never do that. I would never do that. Take Hokule'a to Kaho'olawe. They had their thing going. We wished them the best. We had ours. Ours was to get Hokule'a to Tahiti at all costs. And so as Hokule'a was going down, there was a lot of tension on the boat. It was just like they on one side, locals on one side. But they came together. Okay. But it's just the distractions got really bad all the way down. And the concern was to take care of Mau and get there. Everybody did their best. But science owned the project. So we had no say. It was as if the expectation was that we be eunuchs, no voice and all of that. But this was a spaceship of our ancestors, and we were obligated to get her there, even if the distractions were such. And so it was hard going down. It was hard in that effort because of the personalities involved.
We're two brothers from Hawaii, and this channel is our opportunity to tell stories around the world. If you have a place, a city, an event, or a story that you think we should experience and you can help make the travel possible, there's a connect form in our site linked below. And if it makes sense, we'll reach out. Thanks for watching. Back to the episode.
So besides the social dynamic, weather conditions. There were also times where there were no wind. And I remember seeing the crew kind of feeling a little distressed and fidgety and demoralized when you're sitting on the open water and there's no movement. There's also a situation where somebody smuggled a radio on board.
Okay, that's a good question. My priority was before we load the food on. Okay. Okay. We empty every compartment. Now, when we sailed, my compartment was with Papa Mau, and I had a drywall bucket. Okay. We had inside was this little radio, which was I think 3D batteries. That's the big batteries. Yeah. It was only tuned to KCCN. We felt that our child, Hokule'a, deserved to have music. This little radio did not have the capability for long distance type of,
communication.
Giving information about navigation. Okay. In the rush to get Hokule'a ready to celebrate the American Revolution, management came in and just helter-skelter, didn't check these compartments. Okay, so that radio, my radio, stayed in there. And in their efforts to sail down, I think the radio was brought out or was found. But once you get away from Oahu, you can't pick up the radio signals for KCCN. So this came in the news, and I figured, okay, here you got Heuristic, Paranoia.
Yes.
Okay, but added to that, there's a chain of funny things. And as Hokule'a was getting ready to leave Honolulu, Momike Olana, Buffalo's wife, gave Buffalo this Ziploc bag with white powder inside. It's like a cornstarch or something to that effect. Because when you're out in the ocean, you're not bathing and you got salt water. Down in the crotch area and up here, it's going to get all rust.
Yeah.
And going to get sore, yeah? So this bag is being shown as white powder, and then the person goes to the radio and evidently talks to the escort boat. They have cocaine on board, okay? The antics, okay? Heuristic paranoia. But then, before we left, Papa Mau was invited to Kalaupapa. He was given two types of tea, ko kokolau and mamaki tea.
Okay.
Papa Mau wanted me to buy a couple cartons of cigarettes because he loved to smoke. Huh?
Yeah.
And when he brought the tea home to our house, he liked the smell of it. So he says, take this with us on Hokule'a, I smoke. Okay. So Boogie and them rolled this, looks like a joint.
Yeah.
Okay. Of mamaki tea. Okay. And so the odor has a pungent odor. Okay. So the radio is pulled out. They have marijuana. Okay. Okay, so now you see the antics, the paranoia going on. So already we were, bad news.
Troublemakers on there.
Oh, yeah. And it's printed. It says, on land, Kimo Hugho was a major troublemaker. On the ocean, it was Buffalo Keaulana. It was Buffalo Keaulana. It was Boogie Kalama, Billy Richards, and Shorty Bertelman, because Shorty felt that the only people who should be on Hokule'a would be indigenous people. So this is printed out and given to the press. That's why we became the bad guys from then and even till now.
So what you're saying is propaganda and misinformation is nothing new.
Look at today, in today's world.
Yeah.
Retribution, still going on outside. Yeah. But this was in 75, 76.
Interesting.
But that's the human being.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you up and you have this thing that's ready, and I love everybody who was in this situation. Not of Hawaii blood. Wonderful people. The goal was to get this thing going, and even go beyond big awards. You know what I mean? Just to make this a success. But everybody had their own idea of how can this be done.
Yeah.
But you had personalities involved.
So it's actually, it's almost magical that it actually did happen and continues to happen, because I know that they're doing global voyages and whatnot. I know my brother wanted to go over that. I did want to ask you one thing. When I saw it in the documentary, and I know that it was a National Geographic documentary, so there had to have been a certain message they were trying to package up. But I saw the petroglyph, the ancient petroglyph of the cell on the rock. And then I saw you take a mold of it, or you actually based the actual cell from a petroglyph?
Right. Okay. There were no records of what the voyaging canoe looked like. There was nothing. Okay, nothing at all. The petroglyphs, what made it significant, I mean, what we got to see was that the sail was very significant for them to be successful. Now, if you look at the Western sail, they have the apex up high, and then the sail comes down and it gets wide at the bottom. If you look at the crab claw sail, it's opposite. So the significance of this sail, even to this day, was such that even Papa Mau and I felt that it's unique. But on the petroglyphs that are many throughout the islands of this sail, and there's also petroglyphs of a framework, which would be the pola, which is the platform on top. It indicates that there were two hulls, but no petroglyphs show hull design. Okay, so it was obvious that there were large voyaging canoes, and Herbert told me that some of them went up to 80 to 100 feet, but no design. Now, let me tell you this. All components of the voyaging canoe for our ancestors came from the pristine rainforests. We don't have the pristine rainforest anymore. So the hulls, tree, okay? The lashings, coconut sennit. The sails, lauhala. All of the components for these big voyaging canoes that came here over 800 years ago against the odds of going into the wind, not where these islands are, okay? All of these components came from the rainforest. And once they came here, they were biodegradable. They just went back to nature, okay? So that's why there were no blueprints. So your question, the crab claw sail. Now, here's one point. When you look at the crab claw sail in the lava, it doesn't tell you if that crab claw sail on a vessel is straight up, is leaning forward, or is leaning back. So the mindset is, oh yeah, crab claw sail. So when we build Hokule'a, all the good people who are putting her together, they erect the crab claw sail vertical. Okay. On modern day vessels, what makes the vessel go towards the wind or into the wind is a front sail called the jib. So if you have the crab claw sail standing up like this, you don't have that forward sail. So getting up into the wind, this is my manao and Papa Mau's manao, was such that, well, they never had a jib. So what did they do? They leaned it back. So this lower part of the sail, the bottom part of the crab claw sail, now becomes equal to the jib. So this, in my mind, was such that this crab claw sail, in this configuration, was able to move these voyaging canoes up close into the wind. So Hokule'a and all these other canoes are like this. Before they left for Tahiti, Papa Mau and I talked over, and I says, Papa Mau, don't you feel that they went this way? He says, yeah. So I says, I don't think that they'll go for it if you say that, let's do this now. Everybody's mindset is, oh yeah, it's that way. Okay. So I says, can you do anything when you leave here to improve your the speed? He says, yeah. As we're going towards South Point, the wind is coming from this side, okay, so let's say from Mauka. He says, what I want to do is lean the sails of Hokule'a into the wind. He says that way, if the sails are straight up and they're sailing, getting ready to go past South Point, the wind is going to be so great that Hokule'a is going to be leaning over this way. Okay, he says, I want a proper, he didn't say the word plane, but he wanted the two hulls to really be, have equal weight distribution from the energy of the sails. And by doing this, he'll move the sail into the wind, and he'll have balance. He says, that's what I'm going to try. But I said, I don't think they'll let you do that. So the crab claw sail continues to be the magic sail. But my feeling is it wasn't straight up. And that's why you see Hokule'a. Everybody's sailing now with the crab claw sail like this. They got the western jib up front.
Okay,
so now what you have is a yacht. You know, a Polynesian canoe. They all got this jib up front. If they were to take time now, and I'm trying to push this effort on a new canoe being built, to let's sail with the crab claw sail back this way, the way that I feel that our ancestors did. So, you know, there's a lot of more trial and error.
And it's actually engineering.
Right.
You know, in addition to listening to the spirit and the source, there's also those type of mechanics that go hand in hand with it. So science and the spirit together. You know, I wanted to talk in 1978 about Eddie Aikau and that situation. The capsizing in stormy weather. Do you know exactly what happened in terms of why the boat capsized?
Yeah. Right here, I have the Coast Guard report on that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was telling brother. Okay.
Wow.
Well, while we were doing the Hokule'a project, and we ended 10 months of indigenous family sailing, and everything was nice. There was paranoia about this. And so we turned the canoe over to management, and it was necessary because they had their, you know, all of the kuleana that was necessary to get this project underway. But it became a rush to show Hokule'a here and there. So as we came back from our last island, Molokai, with Tutu Clara sailing with us, 83 years old, and her sister, Mano, following us. She kept insisting, my sister's over there. Okay. So we anchor at right next to the natatorium. And we're going to stay there for a week. And so we're getting ready to, I was told, get her ready to take her out the next morning. Well, the next morning, the night before, Kona wind came up, and the conditions in front of Waikiki was waves breaking at least 18 feet. Okay. Wow. So I was ordered to take Hokule'a out. Okay, we had a 35 horsepower engine. I was ordered by management. I refused. I painted the deck with Watco oil so that she would, even if I was fired, that nobody could take her out. If Hokule'a went out, the conditions there would have made her sail backwards, forwards, or broadside into and over into the natatorium. If there would be fatalities, yes, there would be, because you had crew members. So here's number one screw up because of rushing. You know, like taking Willie the Whale, and you want to show Willie the Whale all of these things. So that was the rush to get money to show her. Okay, we needed the money.
Yeah.
Okay, so screw up number two happens. I'm on Kauai, and I get a phone call. Get Hokule'a ready. We're leaving for Oahu, and get as many crew members as you can. I would never go more than 14.
Yeah,
it's ideal. Because I was pushed to get as many as possible, we came close to 24 per orders of management. They came on with 5 of these red cans of gasoline, okay, for outboard engine. We were supposed to paddle, engine, and sail to Oahu. The orders given to me was that get Hokule'a to Oahu in 24 hours because there's a commitment. Our planning was such that Hokule'a, getting to Oahu, we would take 3 days because we wanted to go 100 miles up above, then skirt down outside of Makapu'u or Makaha. Well, so here the demand is. Now, I told you a little while ago that Lani Ka'avaloa had this dream that Hokule'a's Akea hull would be completely submerged, everybody would be okay, and a steel hull foreign vessel would come to your aid. Exactly. So we're not making any headway to Oahu. We've passed the 24 deadline. And so the winds would take us south, north, right around the compass. We were in the condition where Kamehameha was in when he tried to take over Kauai. He couldn't. What was the intent of Kamehameha? To take Kauai. What was his intent here? To get Hokule'a to Oahu in 24 hours. So all of this happens, and the hull is submerged. Before that happens, I go to management, because we had one of the 3 managers on board. I says, look, our child, Hokule'a, is being abused. The weather conditions are such that we're not able to make headway. We've passed our 24-hour time frame. Now, Wili Wili is right there, the harbor. Let's take her in and assess her condition. And I was denied that. Okay, as if divine intervention came in. Keakua, the water was malie. Water started flowing in both sides of the male hull. The hull was submerged like this. Everybody was okay. But we had Boogie Kalama on board. So we felt we had enough food and water. We had all Kauai crew. Boogie Kalama goes up to the front of Hokule'a. And we figured nobody was scared. Okay? He starts singing Queen's Jubilee. Now, music, when you're down, saddened, for many it brings you up. Now, if you listen to the words of Queen's Jubilee, it was written by Queen Liliuokalani for another queen in Europe. But it's not so much the words as much as the tune. You know, later on, go and listen to it. So can you imagine we out there not knowing what our, who's going to save us? Because we had no radios. He sings Queen's Jubilee. And at the last part of ending, he starts bringing his tone down to really diminishing to a ha. At the end of his ha, at the horizon, there's this rooster tail. It's sea flight. Steel hull, foreign vessel. They see us. They come straight to us. So, what do you do? So that happened. And so, okay, this is mess up number 2. Mess up number 3 was Eddie's. Okay. The new management did not like the first crew because we were troublemakers. So to one-upsmanship, they decided, well, we're going to go get a crew together, go take Hokule'a to Tahiti, and we'll come in and triumph. One of the JPEGs I sent you yesterday, I'm in a helicopter, and Hokule'a is in Honolulu Harbor in Ma'alia water. They're supposed to be getting ready for this voyage to Tahiti in rough water. Okay. At the time they're getting ready to leave, there's hoopla on the beach. The mayor, the governor, Royal Hawaiian Band, all of this. I mean, happy stuff.
Yeah.
The commander of the Coast Guard requests that this voyage be delayed at least a couple of days. The worst storm ever to come to Hawaii was halfway between California and Oahu. And by the time Hokule'a would leave, she would leave right into the mouth of this storm. So the commander of the Coast Guard asked politely, please delay it. The answer from management was, no, we're going. We're not going to go with an escort boat. Okay. So we could all feel our child in turmoil. I had no say. I was no longer there. Okay. Eddie began feeling something. So he went right to Buffalo and Boogie Kalama to ask their mana'o.
Yeah.
And Buffalo says, know who your leaders are on the boat. So everything is gotten ready. They're loading food on with a lot of canned goods. Papa Mau said, never use the lauhala sail. He says, Papa Mau says, if you're going to use the lauhala sail, use it in training on a smaller vessel. He says, you don't know him. I said, what do you mean? He says, the spirit of the lauhala sail is for ancient people. You put up the lauhala sail, it's going to be like a big sponge. So on this preparation for the voyage to Tahiti, the lauhala sail was put on the aft sail. Okay. They decided to leave in the evening. They went out. The water conditions in front of Waikiki was not good. So you had a master voyager on board, David Lyman, the best in the Pacific. He told management, let's wait till this storm passes, then let's go. He was told, you're going to be replaced. Okay. So they went. Okay. They got to Coco Head and it wasn't good. They got close to Molokai. It was the worst of the storm right there. And they flipped over. Okay. So yeah, we know Eddie's going to go.
Yeah.
Okay. He was told not to go.
Yeah.
Okay. But you can't tell Eddie that. But this meant so much to him. But we had on board maybe 3 or 4 crew members who I would never put on a canoe in that conditions. One of them panicked. So was this such that Eddie had it, realizing that he gotta go? He was going to go anyway. And so Eddie went. So these were the conditions at that time. They got picked up by they got seen by a Hawaiian Airlines flight. But one of the crew members on there who never sailed before had written in a book that he is a messenger of God. Okay, so messenger, why didn't you step in and stop this voyage? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so Eddie goes. Okay, maybe 10 years later, his surfboard is found.
10 years later?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Out by Micronesia.
Oh, really?
So a board of inquiry is put together by the Coast Guard. And here it is. I mean, it's available to the public. Okay? They go into detail about it, everything. Okay, and just a couple of words. Wow. Yeah. And it goes to the conclusions. It says, number 1, the proximate cause of the casualty was the fault of the master. That's the person who says, let's wait. And he was told, you're going to be removed. Okay. The fault of the master in that he took a vessel which was not ready for sea on a voyage at night with relatively inexperienced personnel during gale force weather conditions. Number 2, a contributory cause was the element of time, peers, and the media pressure for the vessel to sail. There you go.
Dang.
They didn't have to go. Eddie would be right here with you. Eddie would have won the first big Eddie. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's rush, rush, rush. And if you look in the beginning of my book, I compare this rush to one of the space shuttles. Okay. That went down because of the O-rings.
Was it the Ellison Onizuka one?
The Challenger.
The Challenger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I want my brother to get on here because he has some interesting angles, but I'm just so honored to be sitting here with you. I did want to kind of close out my part of this this interview with You know, in the Western scholastic system, we're taught of the Ferdinand Magellans, the Captain Cooks, the Christopher Columbuses, which were all very infamous seafarers. They did their thing, you know, and they had their missions. But the Polynesian voyagers, the absence of modern instruments, the connection with the source, the universe, Akua. These are the things that really intrigue me. How do Polynesian navigators measure up against some of these other very infamous sailors?
Far away. Far away. When you talk about Indigenous now, these guys had the best of steel and all of this, but they also represent the core group that began those coming together for the Declaration of Independence. So this core group of Columbus and all of these guys you mentioned, great people. We, in the American educational system, we learned a lot from what they documented. But they're of that group of people who brought about the Declaration of Independence because of this mean king, you see. So as far as the ancients who had their own system of STEM, engineers, all of that, I mean, you kind of compare, Because if you look at it as far as these names that you mentioned, okay, these are colonial scientists, and they were good. But at the same time, you had indigenous scientists. Huh? We didn't have the pala for all of this stuff, but we had our own science, which is indigenous science, which is relative to nature and looking at nature as family. And that's why I said that Papa Mau, we wanted to play this game that everything in nature that we're going to be depending on in the Hokule'a project would not be acceptable to Western science. And Western science still has the DNA of colonizing mindsets. So, yeah, we were way away from all of this, way away.
And you know what? It will always live on through conversations like this.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Uncle Kimo. Brother Kenji, it's your turn. Thank you. Mahalo.
Hey, my
pleasure. That was wonderful. 2 nights ago, before this, both my brother and I had the worst sleep that we've ever had. Like one of the worst nights of sleep. And I could feel the weight of what this means to the ancestors. So I had a very strong prayer that I did the following night and had the best sleep I've ever had last night.
Right.
But the 2 nights, I was like, Ken, bro, I don't super bad sleep, bro, last night. My back was achy, not from a sick type of body ache, but like somebody was holding my spine. And like I was just like, oh, this is so uncomfortable. Every 20 minutes I'd wake up. I was like, man, I cannot be too tired. I gotta mentally be in the right place for this interview with Uncle Kimo. But then I realized the weight of what was going to happen today. And then I was allowed to center myself, and I had a great sleep last night. But he also had the same experience the same night.
I couldn't sleep. And you know what's crazy? Last night,
Yeah.
so we both have 2 daughters.
Yeah.
The oldest one is 9, the younger one's 7. And right now, at least she's super like daddy, daddy, daddy,
Oh, of
And
course.
it's priceless. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she was like, Daddy, like, put me to sleep. I know you have to work, but can you put me to sleep, man? So I was like, I'll lay down with you for like, half hour. Boom. 8 hours later, the best sleep I had last night, like really good.
Right.
And I woke up 5 a.m. today, like, oh, I guess I put you to sleep and put myself to sleep same time.
Right.
Felt super charged up.
Right.
I just thought about you.
Yeah.
I thought about the conversations we were going to have. And then come 7 o'clock, the girls get up and I just was was ready. I was ready. Yeah. So, I mean, really, there's no start or end, right? As we kind of jump into this segment where I have some questions as well. Sure. You know, one thing that really stuck out to me listening to you and Taisei talk was when you said that the canoe is a spaceship of our ancestors. Right. And I would like for us to have this conversation serve as somewhat of a spaceship for our descendants. Because looking forward, the voyaging spirit never leaves us humans. No. And today the voyage is looking at a different vast openness, which is outer space. Mm-hmm. And I think your mana'o, your take on space exploration is a very valuable one the world needs to hear. Mm-hmm. So I hope to lean into that. Sure. And to begin with that, I want to start with a little bit of humility. Because when we are faced with this vast unknown, some people, whether it's the ocean, we grew up on this island, yeah? You grew up on Oahu.
Yes.
So we all from Oahu then. We grew up here in this pico of the Pacific, if you will.
Oh, perfect.
And going out, first time swimming super far out at Barbers for me. You know, we enter this vastness. And some people, whether it's the ocean or outer space, when they are confronted with a vast unknown, some people might feel insignificant, less significant. But some people feel more connected. I'm curious to hear your take on this idea of humans being confronted with vast unknown, and how does that make you feel?
That's terrific because, you know, we were at that time so modernized. You know, here my background was in life safety and getting all this rescue equipment ready. Now we're going into the unknown with this voyage. And we had people coming right up to my face and saying that, oh, you guys are going to die. You know, you're going to take 100 days. You know, all of these, you know, it would be common, possibly even for those who started the first space, you know, ventures. So I had people coming up and saying, you know, well, if you're going to have pink people on the canoe, you know, I took it. And, you know, I approached them in such a way that it was a family member, although they were mad, you know, and telling me that, oh, you're going to die. It's okay. I took listening to them as necessary. And I thanked them for that. And so this was the beginning of people coming out of the woodwork. And my gut feeling is that, you know, we're going somewhere. But where? Where will we find the island? You know, this, you know, second thoughts. Oh, yeah, we'll have a navigator. Yeah, but. You know, this is coming all the time. But having Mau, and especially my father, we look at animism as part of our family. Animism, where we look at putting a spirit. We had a family canoe where Dad looked at it as a family member, okay? His tools, his plants, anthropomorphism. He talked to his plants, the mango tree, the banana, lychee. And so he had a partnership. And so I was thinking, well, okay, and this is all brand new. I don't know anything about the stars. I'm going to have to say, well, oh, I'm your friend. And they're going to say, well, who are you? You know what I mean? So the vastness of the universe that is being thrown to us was overwhelming, even though we had the navigator. And I'm thinking, okay, no stars during the day. Yeah, Papa Mau is going to take us there. But what if Papa Mau wasn't with us? You know, how can I tell that all of the waves come to a junction and they flip up like that? And how can you tell this point of flipping up? So yes, it was overwhelming for me and many of us who were picked for the project. You know, I trusted, you know, the scientists, but it was like a universe, more so now, below.
You know what? The universe, the ocean might as well be a universe.
That's what it was.
For most of us humans who live on land most of the time.
Hey.
I know this from being on a boat for 12 something hours recently, and I realized how much of a land animal I am, and how little I can read. Kilo, observation, how under practiced I am as someone who lives on an island so long. How you mentioned waves, reading waves, currents, taste, wind. These are things, languages, you could argue, that many of us growing up on an island just don't ever take the time to study.
Exactly.
And that kind of leads into my question about voyaging as a mindset. Can you describe what is the proper mindset of a voyager?
Be true to everybody who is with you, who are involved. Realize that what Papa Mau looks at as friends, you're going to have to make friends with them, the stars and everything else. That when you're on this platform, it's your home. Now, we're so used to maybe 600, 800 square feet of home, where you can, if you get an argument, just run over there, shut that door. You condense this down to maybe 200 square feet. Okay? You're exposed to the elements, or if you get pissed off with somebody, that person is still within that 200 square feet. Okay? So what are you going to do? So all of these things would come to mind, the mindset. But when I mentioned about can do, will do, shall do, relative to our crew members and people on rescue squad, if you go to any occupation, you're going to find people who stand out like that. I found people like that in a pipe fitters union when I was running sprinkler jobs. I found that in certain members of the police department, military personnel, ordinary city and county workers. There's people going to exude that. And it stood out. And had to consider so many things in going at a fast pace to get this project ready. I mean, we were going. So, yeah, it was just a whole overwhelming bunch of stuff that we had to process and realize that you better know what you're doing.
This channel exists because we protect creative freedom. That also means we grow slower on purpose. If you're someone who thinks long-term and wants to help fuel what we're building without hijacking it, fill out the connect form on our website listed below. We check every submission, and if it makes sense, we'll reach out. Thanks for watching. Back to the episode. You said can do, will do, should do?
Shall do.
Shall do.
Same thing.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that needs to be put on a shirt somewhere just to remind people.
Yeah.
Because that attitude, whether you're a voyager or you're city county worker, parent.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's sort of draw a parallel between, if we're talking about that mindset, right? And different industries. You've seen it everywhere. Okay, let's talk about different vessels, right? Canoe, voyager, organization, city and county worker, whatever, right? Let's look at Earth then as our canoe. Earth. This,
far out.
This is our vessel.
Right.
And we on a journey. Okay. We all crew members.
Exactly.
It's not 200 square feet. It's this planet though.
Right.
And we floating around in this ocean, right?
Right.
What's the quickest, let's put it this way. What kind of assumptions are going to put us in trouble the fastest as we are on this journey together?
On this ship Earth.
On this ship, Mother Earth right now.
Okay.
What kind of assumptions are dangerous to the crew members?
Okay. She really needs to get into dry dock. She's been abused tremendously. But she's not giving up her kuleana to have her ohana from different nationalities on her. She's suffering. But she's not going to give up. But there's times in our life when we have to be resensitized. So how do we resensitize Earth as she's continuing to spin, to give us a platform to be alive? Okay? And I'm sure the sensitivity of she is picking up is what's going on in the Middle East, okay, in Russia, Washington, all of this, Minnesota, Hawaii. She's not going to give up unless there's something out there that will collide. That won't happen. Her aura is so overwhelming. But she's also concerned about all of this trash, these remnants of things that are being shot up and are floating around that will someday have to come down, and what? Just like the trash on the ocean. Now we're going to be getting the trash from up there. Yeah? Mother Earth, our ship, needs hugs. Poor Kenny Le needs somebody to write hula, mele, games, and dedicate to her. If you can get the tremendous volume of us to be creative and on one given day, celebrate Tutu Earth, our ship Earth. If we can do this nationwide, just like Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
What did he do? He brought a lot of cultures together, especially when his friends sang. Okay, what is his
Ricky
friends?
Martin.
Right. What song did he sing? Was
The
it
one about
Hawaii?
yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. Bad Bunny is not Bad Bunny. He was the voice to bring in. And Ricky, when he sang that, I says, you got to come over here. And I'll make an effort to have Bad Bunny come here and take him sailing. Because with all of the cultures that he's bringing together, you want to give him a good high because they're indigenous people? Bring Bad Bunny here. We'll take him sailing. And let him realize that he and their cultures that he's bringing together will be further resensitized to who they are and what they mean.
I'm glad you brought up Bad Bunny because my brother and I were thinking about bringing that up anyway. And so for me, the first shot, I was like, is that sugarcane?
Yeah.
Which speaks, if we unpack that, right? I mean, this goes back to kind of what you were talking about with Taisei about what's causing these calamities, whether it's with Eddie's story or the 1975, the first launch in Canoe when Kane was captain and rushing, meeting, let's just put it as, in some ways, the not Hawaiian standards and timelines and pressures, largely economic pressures. We can't ignore these factors that really affect everyone on Earth. And so a lot of times maybe that is sort of the assumption, or at least the mindset that can sort of poison a crew or poison a voyage, is this rush energy, that leads and manifests, as we've seen in history, in ways that turn Puerto Rico into what it is today, and artists like Bad Bunny to do what he did, in ways that push the Hawaiian culture to where it is today. A lot of these factors are that sort of, what you would say, maybe a natural part of human nature. If you get so many people together on a ship, there's going to be those intuition or actors. So on that note, though, let's say Bad Bunny comes, gets on the Hokule'a or a voyaging vessel. What is the perfect sort of resensitizing voyage for someone who needs it? What does that look like? How many days? Where do we launch? Like, What kind of food are we putting on there? How do you see that going?
Okay. Before he even steps on the canoe, we'd be in an area, a forest area here, Kahana Bay. Okay. And we'd say, Mr. Bunny, this tree here will be made into a canoe or has been made into a canoe. This coconut, Senate, is the rope that will keep the canoe together. Okay. This is all from nature. You're talking about the sugar cane. Okay, that's part of our diet too. So we would go, I would take him down to Kahana Bay, and take him into the rainforest that we have there. And it's beautiful down there. And even meet the kahu is a wahine. Bernie, you guys gotta interview Bernie. You don't miss with Bernie, okay? I would rather take them into the nature setting instead of just say, oh, come on this canoe, because they're not acclimated to being on a canoe and not knowing what their role is, let alone being exposed to a cold wind or a hot deck. They're not going to be resensitized. If in a short period of time we can give them a briefing, but meet the people, especially from our school, Kanihonu Moku Voyaging Academy, all women, local women.
Based in Kahana or East Oahu?
Yeah,
based
on
in
the Kahului side.
Okay.
And so I'm with other organizations on the Big Island, many now, okay. To have Mr. Bunny meet all of these people, and they're going to put a paina, luau together. That's how I would prefer that he gets introduced to voyaging. And for that fact, if we go through all of these preliminaries and the canoe is sitting out there, he'll get it. He'll get the package and understand what we're trying to do. And when he's ready to go on, we'll give him the best in foul weather gear so he doesn't get cold, because he's never been out exposed like that. He dresses cool. You know what I mean? All the way that he depicted all of the different cultures, I think that's so cool. But they have to be acclimated to even the slightest of foul weather here. We wouldn't want to put him out there and get shocked. Our concern is his safety. We're not trying to force him to say, oh, you should like this. But it all begins back on land in the forest, and the people, and the paina. And then give him the different lay, like poor Kenny, ginger, and all of that. He'll relate to that because his culture and the cultures with him are friends with everything in nature.
On that note, you said
animism,
and what was the other one?
Anthropomorphism.
And is that associating life to inanimate objects, essentially?
Right.
I'm reminded of that because of I lived in Japan for 8 years.
Yes.
And the big two religions are Buddhism and Shinto. And one of the differences, as it was relayed to me, I could be wrong, obviously, I'm learning, but in Shinto, there's polytheistic, so many gods, and associating life to many things. And I was like, wait, I'm from Hawaii. That sounds very similar.
Right.
And so on that note, would you say there's more of this is more like a what is science question? Because like the game you play with Papa Mau, there is intelligence on both sides. If we simplify it, science and let's say indigenous knowledge, there's intellect on both sides of these things. It's just very different. So how do you sort of, and I feel like what we're alluding to here with like Puerto Rico and Hawaii is we have more connection to this side of connection to, for example, the smell of pool kenny. Anybody around the world smell it at one time, they love it. One of it's sensory. It's unexplainable by, I'm sure it is explainable by science and molecules and doing all that. But like for the most part, we feel, we use our senses, we use memory, and we kind of thrive in the subjectivity side of things. And so for you, how do you sort of, if you have to, bridge those gaps between science, as let's say Western science, and maybe indigenous intellect? Whether it's voyaging, sprinkler systems, whatever it is, how do you sort of bridge that? How do you balance that?
Oh, that's heavy. Interesting question. Yeah, you get indigenous now, but you also have scientists who have na'au that speaks to them. You know what I mean? It's
Intuition.
not just basic to we of the Pacific. I mean, this isn't God-given, nature-given. It's the internal box down here, maybe 3 fingers below the pico.
Yeah.
You know? And where you've had occasion where people of the Western culture come across an emergency, and you've had stories about ladies carrying a car to remove from a victim. And you get people saying, wow, I get this sense of something happening. Here, Western people, or from different countries, is that na'au kicking in? I would say that because we're from the Pacific, and all the indigenous peoples have a relationship to everything in nature. So that makes it more so that they can at least tune into that.
Well, let's put it this way, how would you train, for people like myself even, when I talked about observation, like how do you train intuition?
Okay. That's interesting. You go back to Ike Papaloa. Okay. Now, when you talk about intuition, the first chapter of my book, I talk about early warnings. I don't know how you can do that, because my mother, 30 days before December 7th,
1941,
she was picking up something big happening. And on Sundays, my father would go to work at Pearl Harbor to catch up on work, but he had more peace time to work on these PT boats for the Navy. And so as time came close, Mama was getting really bothered. She cried. And so on that morning of the 7th, when he left for work, maybe about 3 o'clock in the morning, she was crying. And then so he goes into the mess hall, and he goes to get his breakfast, and all of a sudden this roar starts coming down, and he can see into the planes going down. But that's just one example of Ike Papaloa with so many families. I had this on the rescue squad because I took our helicopter, our equipment, as a spirit. I put a spirit to it, and it was somebody. And when our helicopter was being abused by management, like Hokule'a was, my sensitivity at that time, my early warning was that there's a possibility that there can be fatalities. And so I went to the chief and I said, this is not going to be proper. Sure enough, because of the hubris, cavalier attitude, we had 4 people killed, and our helicopter disintegrating in the air over Sacred Falls, only because of this rush to, hey, you guys go do this, do that. We don't care if the weather's like that. So this intuition, would come, I think, when the situation shows itself. In other words, I was telling brother, he's the bosun for the ship, Royce, okay? Yeah. For your business and everything. You're going to pick up some action that is happening that is not too cool. And you're going to pick it up and sense that this could be a problem. So I would say that it will come natural to everybody, I hope.
Everyone's felt what you just described. When you step out into uncertainty, some people, I would say, listen more than others.
Oh, yeah.
Because I really feel that we all feel it.
Right.
Whether or not we act on it is another thing.
Yeah.
You've mentioned how you've acted on it. Does that courage to act on instinct maybe this is part of what makes a voyager, is the courage to act on their instinct, listen to their own na'au. Is there ever a situation where you should not listen? And what does that look like?
Well, interesting. You're saying that you see something coming up, and you're going to act on it. But a lot of times, we tend to rush to the situation, not realizing that you tend to be what I call rugged and low, right? Okay. And sometimes you may perceive what's happening, but you really got to take a good look at it. So somebody on the other side of you may not see it that way. So, it's hard to say that all of us here will react the same way.
Especially if we're a crew on the same vessel on a journey. I've heard, in preparing for this, I kind of went in a more space voyage journey because it is interesting to me. I think it's very much interesting to most people now as it's become more of a reality. I mean, literally space tourism, images that we've never seen before. So it's, in a way, the new frontier. And for me, it boils down to like, well, who's going though? The first manned human mission is very different than a probe that we send out.
Right.
And so I'm thinking about the person, the voyager, and you are a voyager. So I'd like to give a lot of sort of mana'o to the future voyagers who will go on that journey. It will happen.
Interesting.
And you are bringing this real experience from our modern time. And so one thing that voyagers, I think we're getting to is skills and tools.
Right.
Skills we can build.
Right.
We can, like intuition can be considered a skill.
Right.
And in times where you might hear the voice, you yourself, the warning, and you're not sure how to act, then we can I feel like that's when tools come in. Well, let's read the objective measure of air pressure or speed or whatever, right? And so if we were to just oversimplify things, what's more valuable, skills or tools?
Skills. I mean, you have to, you can't grab a tool for the first time and realize that you're going to finish that, whatever object. It takes time to go through that. I mean, even in the basic navigation. To become a navigator, Papa Mau says that you have to build a model of the vessel that you're going to be sailing on. So here's where the skills come in. Okay, so you build this model and you put the same type of lashings that you're going to have on your big vessel. And as an example, I have a 4.5-foot model that he built, and he says that before you build your big canoe, you build your model canoe, and with the skills, okay? And you see how the framework and all of that is. Then as you get older, you begin to really be ma'a to this. And so this model will take you to finish your big canoe, all through the skills that you have learned from when you were small. And so it wasn't just building a canoe and just going. It was from way back.
In that National Geographic documentary on you guys, I noticed too, like a lot of the B-roll is just the video guy. Like,
right.
I was like, a lot of the B-roll of Uncle Mau was him building,
right.
Like chipping away,
Right.
busy with the work, even though the voiceover narration is like the navigator, this, the navigator, that. So there's the skill building exercise.
Right.
So but let's apply that to the vastness of space, to our voyagers who are out in space on their spaceship. One, it's in a way like, I feel like being, for example, let's say Mars. We all know a rich billionaire right now who's got his target set on the red planet, right?
Yeah.
So how to get there is a very big, you talk about STEM earlier too, like that's maybe the pinnacle of our time, how we get to Mars, right? But also like, how do we train for it, the people for it? And there will be people going there. For them, how much can intuition actually, how much, I'm wondering, like in their training programs, how much are they talking like, hey, Voyager, listen to your gut, versus, hey, Voyager, look, if this, then that. Here's the manuals. Here's backup A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Armies of engineers have thought about this. So you're basically operating a dashboard. That to me seems counterintuitive to the voyaging that you're familiar with. Is there something that you could give the future astronauts, the voyagers of space, some sort of na'au for them when they find themselves in that situation where they're at the crossroads?
You're talking about up there?
Up there.
Oh, that's heavy. That's neat. Wow. I followed what's been going on up there. And there's an app that I have, and in the evening I go out and I see where the space station is and all of the trash that's up there, where the different constellations are. So it reminds me of when we first started the project. So our universe was down below the ocean and all of that. And I'm thinking, okay, so for an example, one of the crew members that we have here on the school, she's an astrophysicist, local girl. You'd be good to have her on board. Local girl. Yeah.
Nice.
So she's telling me about what she sees up there. So give you an example. The zenith star that the ancestors used to find the islands, over these islands is a zenith star that's directly ahead. It's called Arcturus. The Hawaiian name is Hokule'a. So just the other day, I says, when you're up there and you're doing your work, astrophysics, and you're going to looking through them guys up there, I says, our friend, Arcturus, what does she look like? And so she's trying to explain what I don't understand of all of the different, if you dissect this star, from far away, it's this, right? But she's explaining how it's just a big, I wouldn't say glob, but a vast amount of things that makes up this star. And so she's describing the universe for me from her education. And so she is teaching our students about, because we're navigating down below, she's teaching our students about what is really taking place up there. And now she's teaching me that. She's talking about light years and all of this. And I'm talking about, okay, the International Space Station, about it coming back, within the next couple of years. What will happen to the contamination on the outer skin of the space station once it enters from upper orbit coming into our atmosphere? And they have a pre-planned spot where it's going to go into the water. Okay, now, what about this contamination on this unit once it gets into the water, let alone in our atmosphere? So, this is what I'm beginning to learn about what's up there. So I can't really prepare anybody from the point of view of being a voyager on the ocean, to the type of conditions that are up there where, you need special breathing apparatus.
I mean, you talk about conditions,
right.
The complete different set of conditions
Right.
in the environment you're fighting against.
Right.
You personally, would you go to outer space?
Well, at my age, no. Mm-hmm. But when I was rugged and low, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, sure. I mean, we wanted to do everything when we were 25 years old.
Where would you go, though, in space?
In space, I would really want to go to find God. Blessed that we look to He for help. I want to go say hello. So with this with this big camera unit that they got up there. They go beyond.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, he's over there. Come on, show me.
That's like what you said about Papa Mau, or like the send off of a navigator is just one-way trip, huh?
Yeah.
Well, that would actually be
Right.
maybe in a few generations' time an option for people. We talk about space tourism, but what about space? Not even a funeral at that point; it's a send-off.
Things are changing as we speak.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned about Kula. Yeah. He's in a time of now, and the experience and the knowledge that he has for continuing education. We just came back from this Indigenous Peoples World Conference on education. I think he is the pilot of this spaceship that will take education beyond, even up there. So the question you present to me, I really think Kula would be the perfect one to give you the answer.
Okay, well, brother Kula, we look forward to asking you. Also, can you shout out this young wahine who is the astrophysicist in Hawaii?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Now, wait. She has a Hawaiian name so long. I can get back to you, on that. But she's with Kanihunamoku Voyaging Academy.
Okay.
Okay. So
there is a place for people who are interested to go. Mm-hmm. I mean, what the academy you just mentioned, what else sort of resources are out there for especially indigenous or local people who are interested? Where do they go for this kind of stuff?
Okay, so they're on the website, Kanihunamoku Voyaging Academy. They've taken navigation from its beginning stages, and the beginning stages of navigation is having like your child, okay, come, and they have a star chart on the ground, and it shows north, south, east, and west, and houses in between. So they teach the children this.
The 32 houses.
Huh?
32, yeah, houses.
Yeah, there's many. I'm not voyaging anymore,
so okay.
It's out of my thing. But then they also begin putting together a small model canoe. So right now we've had classes for second graders all the way up.
Oh wow, that does sound pretty cool.
So in Aotearoa, we sat in on a class of fifth graders that are learning all of the basics of voyaging and navigation. So this is what Kanihunamoku does. They begin at showing them what the tea leaf is, showing them the coconut. Not right into get on a boat and let's go.
A lot of times I'll speak for myself. A lot of times I, up until this conversation, thought of voyaging, admittedly, like as an ocean activity. Mm-hmm. But I'm realizing now, like it ain't really. It's like you said with Bad Bunny, it would start in the forest. Right. It would start with the forest. It would start with conversations, start with culture, sensory activation. And then you're like, so thank you for that kind of mindset shift for me.
Okay.
One more space question, because I wanted to ask it when I first said it. Aliens, yes or no?
I'm sorry?
Aliens.
That's a good one because I got many tape recordings that are so valuable. And so before the voyage to Tahiti, I taped Mau about what his mindset is before going down. But I wanted to ask him different questions if whales played an important part in his navigation. And he says at one point in time it did, but now he doesn't rely on whales. Because they were too playful. They come by with him and they lift up his canoe and all of that. But they didn't give him any indication. He didn't rely on them for navigation. However, when we delivered his canoe to him on his island, his two sons were navigating and they were seeing islands I couldn't see. They pointed, right? No, all you see is a horizon and bright like chrome. And then he says, oh, we're getting near the island. And he says, well, what makes you this particular island? He says, we're getting near to such and such an island. I says, oh, what indication? Because I don't see anything under there. He says, oh, the whale just went underneath us. And I'm thinking, okay, so they are using the whale to some extent. And so Papa Mau, goes and talks about this, about, I just forgot what your question was.
The aliens.
Aliens, okay.
Yeah.
So in this tape, I say, okay, you're friends with everything up there in the sky. I says, you see saucer. He said, what? I said, flying saucer. He said, what? I says, there's these things, they fly up there and they get people inside with one eye or maybe 4 eye and everything. And he says, oh no, there's nobody. But to your question, yeah. Now I'm hearing so much about this place in Nevada, 51. And now there's another term other than UFO, there's another term for that. And there's records of a pilot seeing things. I'm saying yeah. I'm saying yes. Well, we're so advanced on Earth, but there's things up there that turned into a high level of intelligence, not into human form. Okay, and so I'm really sure that a lot of this information has been tracked, but not have been released. So yeah.
Before we even started, you mentioned how you're an active YouTube connoisseur.
Right.
And so that rabbit hole is a deep one as far as released documents, pilots. These are navigators of the sky. You could say pilots, their accounts of encounters. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
And who's to say that on this vessel of ours, Earth,
right,
we haven't been visited by a Voyager from somewhere else?
Oh yeah.
So I mean, when we're in the vast unknown,
right,
that has to be an option. It has to be a possibility. And I'm in the same boat as you. Uh-huh. I think it's inevitable that it's proven.
Uh-huh.
It's just not proven,
right,
undeniably yet.
right.
So when that happens, I mean, who knows? It could be in our lifetime. I do look forward to it. I don't think do you think it's more like if a Voyager made it here to Earth, what do you think the intentions of that Voyager would be?
Well, I think their observations above of us down below would really make them feel the files of, studying us to that critical point of if they have to come down and introduce who they are and say, this is going to happen, or come down and just display something out of the ordinary that may annihilate, or the opposite. I don't know.
I mean, we all see Men in Black or Independence Day.
Right. Right.
We're very biased by pop culture. But, these are conversations I think we all have. Yeah.
You got to talk.
I would like to sort of wrap up on what drives exploration. I know we've been talking about navigation, but I want to focus on exploration. The names that my brother mentioned in the earlier segment as a product of Hawaii Public Schools, I know those names, largely European names,
Right.
funded by the monarchy of their countries.
Right.
Basically, voyages were greenlit by the wealthy, the elite. So there's an economic incentive to voyaging and navigation. However, I'm reminded of, like this morning, I woke up before sunrise, and on where I'm living, West Oahu side, the sun comes up over the mountains. And so there's this very soft light that sort of slowly illuminates the fields around me at the base of Palehua. So I was reminded of my young days as a young boy with my brother even, exploring these fields, the vast unknown to us. Previously, many, many years before us, sugarcane, but at that time when we were growing up, it was just empty fields. And we explored it, not for economic gain. There was no economic incentive. There was no economic understanding of a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
Our explorations were driven by curiosity. How do you see the explorations of humans moving forward, how much of it's going to be driven by curiosity? How much of it's going to be driven by economic incentives to get a resource on that comment or whatever? I see that same timeless pool of economic incentives. Someone rich greenlighting a mission. There's always that. Look at the series Aliens. That's the whole thing, a rich corporation in space. Mm-hmm. But how much do you think that's inevitable? That voyages will be incentivized by economics? Or will there be somewhat of sort of like a revitalization of this childhood curiosity that I explained earlier, of just exploring for exploration's sake?
Mm-hmm. Well, you got Bezos and everybody else, yeah, that can build the biggest platform. And if I was to befriend him and say, oh, I'm interested, I'm from the Pacific, would he allow me to be involved? And even in the guy Musk, all of these big dollar people, I mean, will we ever have, you and I ever have a chance to go up? And we could never even build a part of a spaceship here, a part of a spaceship. Economics is probably going to be as it is now, it's ruling the world. It's ruling. We're just observers now. As much as everybody wants to, take a ride up there, even though, like how they're taking 5 wahinis up, they go up there, they bounce around, come down, Michael Strahan and everybody else. I mean, that's the extent of where we can go, just on this carnival ride, so to speak. But, I'd like to go beyond that. But for one thing, you got to be in shape. Mm. You got to have a background, ideally with the military, pilots. That's the prerequisites to it. So how do we, common people, that's a tough one.
What are you exploring currently?
Exploring?
Yeah.
Well, for one thing, I appreciate you too, because there's so much going on. In Aotearoa, you had this Treaty of Waitangi, in which the Maoris came to an agreement on this treaty and partnership with the colonists, and so there's a lot of back and forth there. And I've been spending time with possibly the greatest navigator from Aotearoa. So you have all of these different things happening, going on, and education is foremost. But I think in addition to education is life safety for everybody in whatever endeavor that you're involved in. Like brother being the bosun for the ship Royce. The critical parts of what he has there are the hood systems, over the stoves. Okay. There's fire prevention requirements that they have to be cleaned at a particular time by a licensed company. But you clean the hood system. It goes to a long duct that takes the grease all the way down. I found in my inspecting of all of the restaurants at Alameda Center that they'll clean the hood, but not clean the duct, and consequently, there'll be a fire. So he being the bosun, you got to take charge and take care. You, whatever, here, this program right here, you got to take care of all of your equipment for life safety.
You know what? That's a great way to wrap this up. Mm-hmm. I think your words are going to echo long into the future. And I would like to share a few thoughts I had and then ask you to close us out. Speaking with you, Uncle Kimo, I've reshaped my idea of what voyaging means. I also feel like it's largely a mindset piece, mm-hmm. whereas the transit from A to B is not as important as the transformation in the traveler. Mm-hmm. As I have started my transformation here, just having this quick conversation with you. And I do feel like you inject the Hawaiian essence into this worldwide idea of voyaging, as we are in 2026, 100 years after the journey, well, Hawaii Tahiti journey. And who knows where we're going to be in 2075, 2076.
Sure.
So I just want to say thank you very much from my brother Taisei and I. And I would like to offer you sort of the last words to close us out.
Well, I mentioned to your brother that you folks exude the same spirit of Mau. Just by watching you folks and how you make people feel comfortable. And by watching Kula explain all of what he's gone through, like he says, he did his bones, you know. So, it's your presence, and I'm sure that when you're around different people, your aura radiates and they can see this glow. I picked it up in watching you folks and getting ready for this. And even to the point several weeks ago when I came down with that bad bee flu, I didn't want to come into your space realizing that you have family and all of that. I mean, the interview is something else, but health for the two of you would be utmost primary. And that's why I asked you folks if we could delay. Maybe it was a good thing. So going out on that note, you know, I wish you folks the best in health and wealth, okay, and your future voyages. Because what I see in the two of you, you have that navigator instinct. You have that can do, will do, shall do. And for whatever way you're going to go on the ocean or up there, you know, in the atmosphere, you know, you're going to be successful. And that's my wish, is that you be safe forever and your family be safe forever. But lastly, take time out to go to clean water. Immersion into the water, even if it's not deep. And this is what we did for therapy. Exhale as much as you can, but not to the point of you're going to faint. And what we would do, I'd go underwater, maybe about 15 feet of water, and I'd exhale. So go in the water and exhale everything, because as we are amongst just going home and you're absorbing all of this stuff of the outside world. Go beneath the ocean and exhale all of that and follow the tiny bubbles that it breaks the surface, okay? Soon as you come up for your first breath, that's going to be the most purest breath that you ever get. Then it's back to the routine of breathing in and absorbing and assimilating all the rubbish that's out there. So make a point of going in au kai. The salt water is your therapy. Do that.
Mahalo.
Thank you.
Can you let people know where they can find this?
Okay. This is self-publishing. Did it all now. It's called a tome, Tome. They say, well, coffee table book, yeah. I had it printed in China because they got the best paper. You know, most of the photographs are mine. This book I have on my website, familyofthecanoe.com. However, I'm going to pull the books because I'm not happy with PayPal. And there's a way of contacting me. Right now, I'm giving books away to those who are interested in voyaging schools. So I've been giving the books away to everybody who's starting a voyaging school, or friends of mine who want to learn about voyaging. I'll give it away. I'm not interested in selling to make money or the bestseller, not at all. But I'm going to be pulling it because of PayPal. We have this Indigenous Peoples Conference coming up in 2028. So these books are going to be held off for that conference. But if you're aware of anybody within your group that wants the book, I'll give it to them. Okay. I made that effort of looking at going into this, being distributed here, and I was told to my face, this book will never sell. It won't do good. It's only because I speak truth to power.
Who told you that?
Wow, well-known publishers. Yeah. But that's okay because that's them.
That's
the money.
Yeah.
Right?
Incentivized.
But if there's a story that they can't control, oh, okay, I knew it was happening.
And plus, a little teaser, you might be seeing a lot more story time with Uncle Kimo on YouTube.
Thank you.
So, thank you. If you don't mind.
No, not at all.
Thank you.
Taii.
T-A-I.
Yeah, S-E-I.
S-E-I.
Yes.
And what's the second name?
K-E-N.
K-E-N.
Yes.
Okay.
N-J-I. K-E-N-J-I.
J-I.
Yes. Thank you so much for watching this interview. If anything in this video made you feel something, please share this video with someone you think would feel the same way. This channel is a product of two brothers born and raised in Hawaii, using our skills, our story, and our growing network to unleash our creativity. For us, being creative isn't optional. It's a duty. We've got some incredible interviews and creative projects coming up, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world to us. Hope to see you in the next one.